on related to creativity, I think any discussion about creativity isn't truly complete without a discussion of mental health, since so often your mental health impacts the types of ideas that you can come up with and how you feel. How do you manage the strength to create when there's so much stress and work and economic anxiety, especially with everything going on? What are your tricks or hacks to focus and get in the headspace where you can be creative?
Okay, so I have okay, honestly, some days I just don't. Some days I'm like, I cannot do this. My anxiety is up here and we are not writing today. And I've
Good.
accepted those days. But one thing that I have done that I'm so grateful for is create a tribe around myself
Hmm.
with other writers of color, with young writers, with writers who understand that they don't have the safety net of a trust fund behind them, and they understand my personal struggle.
Hmm.
By having those people and being able to be like, hey, today's really hard. I don't see the point. I'm worried about my family. I'm worried about just like surviving. How am I supposed to write a pilot today? And they're like, you know what? I feel you.
Hmm.
These are all of my fears. Your fears are valid. And I
Hmm.
feel heard because I'm like, you actually understand my experience because you're going through it.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, yeah, I can write today. I've been heard. I've been seen.
Ah.
Um, and then there's also just like basic stuff. Like I have a Peloton, which brings a lot of judgment. It's a beautiful.
Damn, hey, at least you have it in the quarantine.
Yes, but like if I exercise, then all of this, and also Peloton, their instructors are all about self love and acceptance and forgiveness, and it's more
Hmm.
like therapy than exercise. But if I do that in the morning, then like I'm almost guaranteeing that I'll be creative later that day. And like I break down the big tasks into little tasks. So like my my manager called me on Friday of last week and he's like, "Hey, so it's staffing season. How about that pilot?" And I was like, "I thought we were in a pandemic. What do you mean? What about that pilot?"
Right? It's like,
And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'll have it to you by the end of next week." That is insanity on so many levels, but by giving myself like goals that I broke down and like if you finish this outline and then you finish this act and then this act, you'll have it to him, it'll be polished by Friday. So that's like the world that I'm living in right now is just taking the big things and then breaking them down to digestible acts and then focusing on like health. Like if I eat all the Chips Ahoy in the house, I'm not gonna write that day. I'm gonna be in a sugar coma. I'm gonna die.
yeah, yeah.
So like if I exercise, if I drink water, and I remind myself what I need to do, it might get done.
And I mean, it's so much. I love that you have a system. It's so much easier said than done. It's like when you wake up and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna have pancakes, and then pancakes just make you feel really tired, and then you don't end up
Yeah.
writing. And it's but I also like that you opened up with saying that, like, if I'm not in the mood, I don't have to write, because that's one of the hardest things, especially if like you're creative and you feel like, oh, I haven't made something in a while, and you just have that itch and you just feel unproductive, and you just start spiraling in this thing like, I'm not making anything, I'm terrible, I'm getting worse, everyone's getting better than me, we're in the quarantine,
Yeah.
I'm just being lazy, and like it just this wheel keeps turning. And so it's good to have like a roadmap for how to get back to like your center of gravity, where you're like, okay, this is who I am, I know I can do this. Now, the once the coronavirus lockdown is over and we're finally able to go back and out in the wild and see other people and go to events, what are you going to do first? Like, what are you itching to do? And what changes do you think you're going to make to your lifestyle, if any?
I'm gonna go get tacos. There's a taco stand that I've been
Mm-hmm.
missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's what I really want to do. It's the first thing out of my mind. Um, how am I going to change my lifestyle? Honestly, I'm realizing that I like being inside. I like
Ah.
I going to meetings. Um, this is very like first world problems, but like having to get dressed and go to a studio and sit down with the exec and talk. I'm like, dude, if we can Zoom, this is
Mm-hmm.
so much better for
Mm-hmm.
like you haven't knocked out half of my day. But also like just on a more emotional level, I'm realizing how important health is. And maybe this is just something that happens when you're approaching your 30s, but all of a sudden I'm like, being healthy is a priority. I'm no longer going to work myself into the ground. If my mental health is not having a good day, we're going to let that day just like rest.
Hmm.
Just things that I never even considered as a possibility are now becoming like my daily practice. So I think I'm going to take that with me when this is all over.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I've been trying to focus on, especially since like, with the lockdown and it being hard to keep track of the days, and obviously like access to good food and healthy food is so limited, and so you've been eating ramen 5 days. You feel it, like you feel like you've
Yeah.
eaten 5 days of ramen. And I'm the same way. Like I just turned 30, and so I'm also in that space where like, oh damn, I'm like lower back pains and shit. So I have to like, I think after this, like one of the things I've promised to do is to try to be a little bit more in tune with going out into nature, because I'm like a hardcore homebody. So now I'm like, oh my god, like I miss being out there. But Saila, I loved chatting with you. I would love to have you back on. My last question for you is, what are you working on, and where can the LLAG community find you?
Well, right now, a bunch of my artist friends and I have started like a consulting kind of collective for
Mm.
COVID. And we have like, I'm offering like editing services. One of my friends is teaching in a fantastic playwriting masterclass. If you've ever wanted to write a play, we have like a casting director on there. We have everyone that you could possibly want. They're all people of color. And if you're trying to break into a certain aspect of the industry, if you have a project that like you've always wanted to finish but you just don't know how, or start and you don't know how, we have someone for you. So if you want to check us out, all of us are offering discounted rates for people who are having like just trouble in COVID, because who isn't right now?
Mhm.
And it's all on my site. It's silareyes.com/consulting. So if you want to check that out, it's there.
Awesome. I think a lot of people are definitely going to use that. We have a lot of writers in the community and a lot of writers who are on the guest on the show. So I think that definitely would be a value. Saila, thank you so much for coming on. We will definitely have to have you back on.
I would love that. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right, bye.